Yo, what's up, everyone? How we doing? How's your week going so far? Hope it's going well. Welcome to Lue Reviews, the destination for critical thinking in the realm of the unexplained. Please don't forget to smack that like, share, subscribe button, and the almighty bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live, which we do go live pretty often. If you want to support the show with the almighty dollar, of course, we've got a link to our Patreon in the description below. We had somebody up their Patreon up to $10 this week. Haven't gotten to you yet on Patreon, but thank you. Just want to give you a special shout out during the live show. So thank you so much to my Patreon members out there. Today, oh boy, we've got a fun one today. We're gonna discuss the High Noon Meltdown with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. We're also going to go over Chris Leto's meltdown, because he's figured out all sorts of stuff. He feels like he is now the chosen one to deliver this newfound human awakening. It's interesting. And also, we're gonna go over what Kirkpatrick said that sent Corbell off the deep end. So let's get started with the show, shall we? Let me go ahead and turn down la música. Let me do this here. So also want to give a shout out to everyone who is in the chat. Blaster Axe, Fifi Barbora, Bobby Broadway, Red Eyes. Thank you guys for being here. I truly appreciate it. Let me see here. Let's go ahead and switch to this view, shall we? Let me go ahead and make sure that my chat is working on this end, which I think it is, right? Yeah, I think, yeah, should be. Okay. Anyway, all right. There we go. That's interesting. Okay, I think I see what's happening now. That's why. Okay. Now it's disappearing. That black square was killing me. And I could not figure out what the hell was happening. King Milk for Harassment Archives, thank you for being here. Heather Birdie, thank you for being here. Eric Thompson, thank you for being here. Steve Long, I see ya. Pat Calabria, hello back at you, my friend. Thank you all guys for being here. Swink McLeod, Sparky Pilot, and of course, Tina Tomaszewski. I see you, Tina. You are my queen. Okay. So let's go over this. So there was another short little article written with Dr. Kirkpatrick, and he also gave another little 13-minute podcast. And I loved it because it's called Science Quickly, and it basically gives you these little science nuggets in digestible, quick forms. And so we're going to play the whole clip because I thought he dropped some, again, very, I don't want to say defamatory, but just set the record straight on the David Grush and OSAP, ATIP, the Jeremy Corbells. I mean, again, not calling them out by name, but inferring them. And hopefully, again, now that Jeremy Corbell's calling him a liar publicly, I would really like to see a little teeth from Kirkpatrick and actually call him out publicly. we'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyway, so let's listen to this, and because this sort of sets up everything else that we're going to talk about for today's show. So let's do it. Skyfire News in the house. What's up?
I'm Dan Vergano. For the past decade, reports of UFO sightings have filled headlines and news broadcasts, and some of these have come from a surprising place, the Pentagon.
And by the way, I have a link to this podcast in the description below. I want to say fair use. This is fair use. This is covered. We're educating the public with the videos that we are sharing, and this is covered under fair use and allowable by law. I'll also, just to be safe, pop this guy up. And I'll do that so people can see it. People can see it. Okay. Let me just, because this will drive me crazy. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's continue.
Former defense officials have made a number of claims about and released videos of strange sightings made by military pilots. These days, the objects are officially called UAP, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. But regardless of the new branding, Congress is demanding answers on these objects, especially after one former official this summer claimed that he believed that the U.S. possessed non-human spacecraft and possibly their dead pilots. We're talking today to the former intelligence official and physicist Sean Kirkpatrick, who until December headed the Pentagon office that the Congress told to find some answers to all this. He recently published an op-ed in Scientific American called "Here's What I Learned as the U.S. Government's UFO Hunter."
So excellent. Good little introduction. You know, it's like, okay, here's the quick information. You guys seen the videos, the gimbal, the go fast, the tic tac. Everybody's heard about them. These are the videos that are being used to prop up this story. And apparently that these things have crashed and that they have occupants and the government is hiding them. Let's talk to the physicist and the DoD spokesperson for the All Domain Anomalous Resolution Office. All Domain Anomalous, yeah, is that the whole acronym? Something like that. All right.
Hi, Sean. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Dan. I'm glad to be here.
Can you talk a little bit about your office's search through past records, what you find and what Congress asked you to look for?
Sure. Congress really gave us two main missions. There's an operational mission, which is to investigate contemporary sightings with military pilots, operators, sensors, to understand what's happening in our domain. You can think of that as the current time going forward. The second mission was a historical mission, which was to look at everything the United States government has done on this topic going back to 1945, as well as look at whether or not there's been any sort of hidden program by the government that's been kept from Congress on investigating UAP, UFOs, or reverse engineering of said things. In that second mission, in that historical mission, anybody who had previously signed non-disclosure agreements, protects classified information, they were allowed to come in if they said, thought that what they had access to was supporting evidence for this investigation, to come in and tell us all about that. And then we would go and investigate what they had to say. We then had the National Archives, we had all of the military service archives, we had some of the combatant command archives, the intelligence community archives, NASA. We would investigate what they would have to say, going back as far back as those archives go, to identify, hey, if you came in and named a program, whose program was it? What was it? How did that relate to what the person was describing? And document all that, which we did. And that was the last report that I signed out before I retired. So in it, there is a bunch of programs that were named. Those are all classified. We found what all of those programs are and reported those back up to Congress. Congress's concern is that there was a program that they did not have insight into. And that is not the case. What we've found is that everything that's been named or identified has a legitimate oversight committee. It's been reported out. It may be state-of-the-art capabilities that, if somebody were to see, didn't understand, but
That's really important. It may have been state-of-the-art capabilities that when somebody had seen it, they wouldn't understand how that works or what that's related to. And I've got an interesting story I've told once or twice before on this show. As a lot of you know, I do Uber and I pick up a lot of pilots, especially at Burbank Airport. And a lot of them are former military guys. One of them told me a story about how he had top secret clearance and he had went into a hangar. And as soon as he walked into this hangar, he saw what he described as a sphere with holes all over it, black holes, so they almost look camouflaged on it. And it had little protruding little knobs from it. And he had no clue what it was. Years later, he sees that thing he saw on top of military helicopters. Those domes that sit on top of military helicopters that have all sorts of sensors and radar and all sorts of weird things going on in that dome. So if you didn't have that context, you would have seen that and been like, oh my God, what is that thing? Alien? And if you'd had a belief system going into that hangar, you definitely might have walked out of there going, holy shit, I think I saw something alien. And then you report it to Dr. Kirkpatrick. Him and his team, not just him, the team goes into the archives, finds the programs, if they still exist. And if they don't, they still find them. It seems like. And they're like, oh, he saw that dome thing that sits on top of the blades. Like, yeah, okay, I can see how 20 years ago that might have been really weird to walk in on. 25, 30 years ago. If you had seen that in a hangar, you'd been like, what the fuck is that thing? And it wasn't attached to a helicopter. So those things happen. They happen. And that might have happened probably more than likely, definitely leaning like David Grush might have come across something like this. If David Grush had even spoken to Dr. Kirkpatrick, which it doesn't look like he has. And it gets into this a little, again, into this interview.
But that's the scope of the investigation.
It's fair to say that you had access to all the classified world that people have pointed to before as hiding some sort of program like this in the past. And you looked there and you found no evidence of this story that the government has somehow been sitting on aliens for the last 60 plus years.
That's right. So everything that people have pointed to, we went and investigated and found no evidence to support that. Again, a lot of these things are real R&D or real state-of-the-art programs, not extraterrestrial, but it is completely understandable why someone who did not know all of that would draw that conclusion.
There's been a lot of concern that excessive classification is playing a role here, that people can't even knock down these claims. Is that a fair complaint, or how would you, describe that? Like you can't tell somebody that they didn't see something they're not allowed to see because you're not allowed to talk about it. Has that been a factor here?
In some instances, yes, obviously, because if somebody inadvertently got access to something or had unauthorized access to something, you can't go and explain to them everything about it. And so that's where you get into another issue of
Oh, sorry, guys. I had to retouch my headphones. Sorry. These went dead. My wireless ones just went dead in the middle of that. So when I reconnected that, the audio cut off from what we were listening to. Anyway, a little behind the scenes. Right, but I think pretty quick on my feet. All right, here we go. All right, here we go.
Access to that information on the Hill. Most people don't understand. Congressional members don't all get access to everything.
We should point out that none of these people who call themselves whistleblowers or are describing this supposed conspiracy came to you with evidence of hidden technology.
Right. Most everyone that came. Now, there are some that had first-hand eyewitness account of something, but that something turns out to be something else. But for the whistleblowers in the public eye, all of them did not come in.
Right. Okay. Again, he wrote an op-ed, he did a podcast, and now he's doing another podcast, and he's stated publicly that none of these public, quote, whistleblowers have come in to talk to Kirkpatrick. And Jeremy Corbell's calling him a liar. I don't think publicly David Grush has called him a liar, but I'm sure behind the scenes that's what he's saying. And the thing is that John Greenwald has FOIA'd those email requests, and he's just waiting on getting those back. And the email request between Grush and Kirkpatrick. And if Grush sent him emails, if Grush was like, hey, when can we meet? When can we meet? Where? What time? Where do I have, where do I got to be? And Grush just ignores him. That's a problem. Like, that's a problem. Like, I would be like, okay, well, now why are you ignoring Grush? Like, that would be an issue. But that's not the case. And here's the thing. These emails are not classified. Jeremy Corbell and David Grush can release those email exchanges right now and prove that Kirkpatrick is a liar. But they don't. They do an hour podcast talking about how David Grush is nothing but truth and Dr. Kirkpatrick is nothing but a fucking liar and un-American. Like, the gall, the moxie, the temerity that you have, Jeremy Corbell, to call a veteran and a physicist and someone infinitely more qualified than you a liar and un-American. I mean, you can call him whatever you want. It's your right. Un-American and a liar. And accusing him of keeping secrets from the American people in the world. So prove it. Release the emails, the begging, the pleading with Kirkpatrick from David Grush. Let's see them. I mean, I don't think he would quadruple down on saying, yeah, David Grush just didn't come in. We asked him, we requested for him to come in, but he just didn't come in because he knew the questions that he was going to get from Kirkpatrick. And he knew that the answer he was going to get from Kirkpatrick, because I'm sure some lawmakers, just like he's described, have gone into his office and have said the same things that Grush would probably say. And Kirkpatrick has looked into them and has come to the determination, yeah, either they're misidentifications or misunderstandings of top secret programs. And every time we look into these secret reverse engineered alien body programs, they don't exist. Now, where I don't believe him is like, oh yeah, we didn't find any misspending within the DoD. No, we didn't find any of that. Like, there's trillions of dollars missing. And that's the thing, is that those trillions of dollars missing feed conspiracies like this. They are wood and cold to that conspiracy fire. Well, there's trillions missing. They must be developing a UFO. They're reverse engineering ET. They've caught biologics. And they want to communicate with it. So they made a new speak and spell. It's just, it's silly. It's silly.
I really have two sets of people. I have a group of people who legitimately have something to say and share. We have others that would rather go to the public or to the Hill and not come in and share that information, which to me is an immediate.
Now, I wonder if he means the Hill as in Capitol Hill, or if he means the Hill as in Marieke von Kloppenstedt, the propaganda machine that comes out of the publication news organization known as The Hill, that started this whole UFO clickbait thing back when Sager and Jetty and Crystal Ball were there. And now they've bogarted that conversation and put it on The Hill now and drop opinion pieces by a guy who's not even a journalist and is a former DOD employee himself. He's a former contractor. Marieke von Kloppenstedt, I believe, is his actual last name. I like to call him Marieke von Kloppenstedt just because, yeah, he was, again, like not last December, but December before that. When we quit, when I ended UCR, like one of the guys that called me before I ended the show and told everybody what I told them and what was coming, Marieke was one of the guys who called me, reached out to me privately because he was getting in a tiff with Mick West. And then he calls me and it's just like all chummy and buddy. And, like, so why are you quitting the show? And I give him my reasons as to why I'm quitting the show. And he's like, okay, so here, let's compromise here. Like, what do you want me to write? Like, he actually asked me that. He's like, what do you want me to say in my article? And I simply told him, look, I want you to admit that nobody knows how far the object is from the camera system. Nobody knows that. And so on the gimbal footage. And so until we get that distance, there's missing math. So you don't have the answer for the definitive answer for how far away that object is. So we don't know definitively if it's glare, IR glare from one of our craft, a plane, or if it's 7 miles away, 10 miles away, then that object is massive. And now we have an interesting conversation. But that's all I wanted him to admit. Of course, he couldn't do that. Because he's just hell-bent on proving Mick West wrong with missing math. And even Mick admits this. Like, we're missing part of this. But from what I can gather, this is nothing special. And he gives all his reasons as to why. Please, go check out Metabunk. So, like, he gives me this, man, you shouldn't quit your show. You're doing so good. Like, you're making so much money. It's like, that's the third time I've heard that from somebody who's called me within the last week. And so I'm curious. I'm wondering what Kirkpatrick is referring to there. Which hill? Just, yeah, be careful, man. The information and where you get it from. And if you don't know, watch the show, subscribe. I'll help you sort of sift through this stuff. And there's a lot of rational, sane voices out there. Steve Long is one of them. He's in the chat. Jack Brewer's one of them. I would definitely highly recommend. Just start with those two. D. Dean Johnson just got some wonderful stuff, especially when it comes to Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar, and George Knapp. Let's listen to the rest of this.
Immediate red flag on the viability of anything they had to say. So I had to get a lot of the information that those other people were sharing through second and third parties, because it all comes down to the same group of individuals, recirculating the story. And the story has been around for decades.
And it just seems like a tremendous game of telegraph that's been going on for a long time. And it's spun up now from the world of ufology to entertainment to the Congress and genuine Congress people who aren't in the intelligence world that you described, sort of pounding the table and demanding answers on this. Is that
Congress people who, I have to rewind that because, again, that's just something that I've been screaming at the top of my lungs, that none of these Congress people are qualified or sit on the committees where they would have access to this information to legitimately pound on the table and get mad and demand answers. Like, you don't sit on any of the committees, you asshole. You're making all this noise and all of this hubbub for nothing in the name of information that Jeremy Corbell gave you, and all of the information you've gathered has all whittles down and all goes back to OSAP and the Bigelow era and that $22 million that Harry Reid spent. All of it goes back to that.
On the viability of anything they had to say. So I had to get a lot of the information that those other people were sharing through second and third parties, because it all comes down to the same group of individuals, recirculating the story. And the story has been around for decades.
And it just seems like a tremendous game of telegraph that's been going on for a long time. And it's spun up now from the world of ufology to entertainment to the Congress and genuine Congress people who aren't in the intelligence world that you described, sort of pounding the table and demanding answers on this. Is that unfair?
No, that's not unfair. So we have legitimate concerns by some of the more rational-minded members of Congress, mostly on the Senate side, about the contemporary observations, right? I have trained military pilots, intelligence sensors that pick up things that we don't identify. Now, just because we don't identify it, you shouldn't leap to it's an extraterrestrial. There are a lot of things that we can't identify, and that's part of the problem. And that's one of the things that we were trying to get characterized and analyzed. But then I've got others who they don't have an oversight role, and none of those members ever asked for a briefing. So it's really hard for me to get my head around how a policymaker doesn't ask for that data.
I mean, from the outside, it looks like grand.
Yeah, I mean, like, these policymakers are getting confused by this very legitimate program and story that's been recycled and retold and now has manifested, like he said, from ufology to entertainment to Capitol Hill. And people that don't sit on the proper committees screaming at the top of their lungs, and he's going like, well, is that just? Is that fair? Yeah, it's fair, because they're being misled by people within our own system, like a David Grush. And they're being, wowed by the stories, secondhand stories of Ryan Graves and David Fravor. And they're going, what the hell's going on? While ignoring the actual national security issue that we've mentioned on this show 1 trillion times. Man, if you drank every single time, like, it would be insane. These lawmakers have been duped. And people like me gave them a lot more credit than they deserved for championing this topic. And I think some of them were championing it to bring attention to, again, that real world national security issue of things in our atmosphere that are being released by the thousands a day and in balloons, and also drones that our enemies are looking weird on purpose so that our service members do not report them. And so that's why they had to create Arrow. That's why they had to destigmatize it. That's why they also had to put those things in there. Like, if you are part of any reverse engineered programs or alien programs where you're dissecting other, aliens, you are obligated by law to come to Congress and tell us about it. And you are protected by Congress. You will not be thrown into jail. We will protect you. And no one has come forward. No one. Especially the whistleblowers that are the most public, like Dave Grush. And when I say come forward, Dave Grush, let's do like a real interview with a real journalist. How about the two journalists that were interviewing you from the Washington Post? Let's get them. Because they're like, nah, none of this shit checks out. You can give it to the debrief. And they ran with it. It's absolutely wild. Clipplizier, thank you so much for the $5 donation, my man. Lou, brother, I find it so cool that Rocky gave you props on Steven's show on True Seekers last night. Keep up the good fight. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm going to get into that as well. The Steve Cambion show and this guy Rocky that came on his show. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, it was a very nice moment. It was just another one of those moments where I could sit back and go, yeah, I told you so. I wasn't as crazy as you guys thought I was. I wasn't having a meltdown or losing my shit. I was just angry that I had been betrayed by friends, and I had been used by friends, and that I had been blackmailed by friends, and that my messages leaked by friends. And I had to stop doing the show that I loved doing because I didn't feel that the information I was spitting out of my mouth was valid anymore. So yeah, those moments are nice. They're really nice. They're really nice. And I'm sure more will come out of the woodwork because there's strength in numbers. Anyway, let's listen to the rest of this.
Standing Congress people talking about UFOs and distracting you from the other mission, your main mission of actually determining what these things are that are affecting our pilots.
That's right. So all of what we've been talking about from the historical whistleblower perspective, important that we need to get it investigated and documented, but certainly takes away from the more salient and concerning mission, the operational mission of the here and now.
I got to say, as someone who's interviewed a lot of people in the Air Force and in the Army for the last 3 decades, it seems kind of insulting and crazy to think that they would hide a technology that would protect soldiers and pilots' lives. I mean, is that an unfair thing to ask?
It's not at all. But you're trying to put logic and reason to a conspiracy. Part of the argument is, there's 12 of these that have crashed into the United States. And so, a lot of people point out, are you telling me that 12 of these vehicles traveled interstellar space, found Earth, got to Earth, and they all crashed in the United States in the last mile? That's just not rational, right? And so, but to your point, if I'm a military serviceman today or woman, yeah, I would be very outraged to find that there was this technology that could certainly advance our capabilities and prevent loss of life. There's not. This is really just a microcosm of a really larger problem of the distrust of government, the distrust of how we conduct operations, investigations, how we govern, our capacity to do so. And I think some of the publicly expressed sentiment by policymakers that completely lacks in any sort of rational thought or common sense just reinforces that concern.
You wrote that this is...
I mean, he absolutely just blasted the law. So he's talking about Tim Burchett, Luna, Moskowitz, and the maniac spitting Bible verses, the other Eric Burleson or Nate Burleson, whichever one it is. He's calling them out, and he's also saying, like, look, like, if there were service members, military people on contracts, special access programs, top secret clearance, yada, 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 and they were working on these ships and this technology for the last 8 decades, and that this technology, that maybe by now we have kind of a firm grasp of how this tech works, and we're not using it to protect American lives in time of war. We're not using it as a show of strength to the rest of the world. Game over. Like, there would be service members within the government that would be like, what the fuck? That's not cool. Like, we've had this for a long time. We've had this for a long time, and you guys are hiding this from us? How many lives could have been saved in Afghanistan? Or Iraq? How long have you guys had this for? You'd have a lot of people whistleblowing right now at the thought of, man, my friend might still be alive. If it wasn't for the U.S. military hiding this, why? For what reason? So I love, man, that they are, again, I just wish they would attach names to this stuff so that you can take out the industry by name. Like, call out Tim Burchett, call out Moskowitz. Like, it would be nice to hear a DOD employee let you know which lawmakers are wasting their time and dollars on looking at this and having no business to look at this, not because it's not your right to be curious, but because they just simply don't sit on the committees that allow them the access to do so. So what the hell are they doing here other than just spitting propaganda that's been regurgitated for the last 3 decades and now coming out of lawmakers? Like, I wish they would just name them. Just name them. It would go so far. So far. Got a couple donations here. Thank you guys. Please here with a $2 donation. Thank you. In the real Lue we trust. Out there for the realness. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And Puxley with a $5 super chat, or £5 super chat. Thank you guys so much. My overseas friends, I really appreciate it. Okay, let's listen to the rest of this.
One of the things that led you to retire from your role is, could you talk about that a little more? Like, in what way?
So when I started this assignment, I laid out a set of milestones. I kept track of that in a scorecard. I reported that out to Congress. And when I reached my goal, that's when I was done. I would probably still be there if it weren't for this irrationality and this cloud of conspiracy that detracts from the real mission.
He'd still be there if it wasn't for all this conspiracy bullshit. Which tells you, like, he's genuinely curious. The physicist. This is a guy that you want to come out one day and be like, okay, we've been looking at this for 10 years. And yes, 99.9 of these percent are explainable. And some are misidentification, and some are, people just stumbling into programs that they weren't meant to see and misunderstanding what they were looking at. But there is this 0.00001% of all the people on the planet that you want saying that, it would be this guy, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, physicist. That would be the guy that you would want to say something like that. That's the guy that we need to convince. Because if you convince him, now this office gets real funding. Like, genuine funding. And here's, like, and this is not like a new thing, but I heard somebody bring it up the other day. I think it was Average Chris. And I had said something like this before as well. Like, Well, I don't know. I can't remember what the hell I was going to say. I just had a total brain fart. Yeah, this idea of like just regurgitating this shit. Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, it's clear as day. Like, it's clear as day who he's talking about, who he's referring to, and the story that he's referencing. And yeah, like, he would still be there if it wasn't for all of this madness. And I'm sure the harassment is part of that as well.
Both an intelligence officer and a scientist. And so hunting for the unknown is the sweet spot of, really my career. This would be lots of fun if that's all I had to worry about. But it's not, right? So most of my time spent trying to figure out how to investigate conspiracy, and you can't prove a negative, right? So now you're faced with laying out as much evidence as you can. But to find that the policymakers have this belief that is completely unfounded and irrational. I've had senior leaders sit in my office and accuse me of being part of the cover-up for the last 40 years.
Senior leaders. I wonder if he's referencing, if that means Marco Rubio? Or is that Chuck Schumer? I'd probably go with Chuck Schumer.
Not that old. So, this is just not rational.
Is there anything you'd say to the more general reader, like, who thinks, okay, well, people are talking about UFOs, the government must know something? I mean, like, who maybe are more amenable to like a reasonable argument?
Well, what I would say is that the government spends a lot of time and effort developing advanced technology for a variety of reasons. Some of this is just people having observed things or seen things or got access to things that they shouldn't have, that they don't understand. And just because they don't understand it, they seem to leap to it must be extraterrestrial, as opposed to, well, it could just be that maybe the United States has got an edge. So I would take some comfort in that. We laid out a very clear, scientifically based plan.
So he just told you there right now that the United States has the edge. Take comfort in that. Like, we have some cool fucking tech. And I've always said, hey man, if this ain't alien, that means it's ours, which is still really cool. That's still a really cool fucking story. That means that we've cracked something. We've figured something out that when a normal schmo looks at it, goes, oh my God, is that alien? And the Department of Defense and whichever branch of the military made that contraption up there that you just saw, that's exactly what they want you to say. Oh my God, is that alien? Instead of, oh my God, is that the Navy? Is that the Air Force? What the hell? That's cool. Let me take a picture of that. New Navy plane? New hashtag Navy plane at Navy? Like, this is, wanted to highlight this one thing here from Puxley, who says, I'm skeptical, but I've had a messed up close-up experiences shared with others. I'm of the view it's paranormal and so very effing rare. And maybe, unfortunately, like, and I was explaining this last night in the space that Skyfire News was putting on after the interview with Rocky. Like, I've also had a close-up experience that I shared with a bunch of people. And I want to scream at the top of my lungs, I know this is real. But I'm not going to do that because I can't prove it. It's a story. It's a memory. It's a 30-year-old memory. recently I've talked to a counselor about it, just trying to rationalize it in my head and trying to just be able to sort of put it in a file and close the file and not think about it. I did nothing but think about that for 30 years of my life. I want an answer to it. And maybe we're right. Maybe it is very effing rare. But I just can't scream at the top of my lungs it's right. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Puxley. You just can't scream at the top of your lungs, I, God damn it, know what it is, even though I'm saying it's unidentified. Like, you can't make that A to Z jump. It's not logical. It's not logical for me. And that's the way I break down my personal experiences, is I take it step by step and I try to logically compare and apply what I know now about the known universe to what I might have seen and might have confused everyone I was with. It's not the fun thing to do. It's not sexy. But it's rational and it's grounded. And it's based in reality. And until we can understand how and when and if these rare effing occurrences happen, how we can measure them, study them, be ready for them when they happen. Like, I always use the example of earthquakes. Now we have ways to measure them, right? A Richter scale. And thousands of years ago, we thought they were angry gods underneath the ground. Like, things change with knowledge and new information. And even like tectonic plates shifting underneath the ground cause weird lights sometimes. Like, that's a known atmospheric phenomenon. And so, I'm, again, to have the hubris to be like, I don't know shit. Like, I don't know anything about this reality that we're looking at. We're still learning about it every single day. And there are millions of possibilities as to what people might be seeing or experiencing. And maybe they are real. Maybe they are visceral. And maybe one day we'll have an understanding of what exactly is going on. But until we can all come together and agree on what it is, where it comes from, how it works, what causes it, how to predict it, how to model it, it's not evidence. It's just a story. It's just trust me, bro, these are real. And yeah, I know I'm not lying when I tell my story. I'm not lying when I say it. But I have to live with the fact that it's not evidence. And God, it fucking sucks. That's a hard pill to swallow. But I'm sorry. That's what I have to do. That's what makes me feel better. That's what makes me not take it to the next level, where I think this conversation gets really dangerous and really culty and really scary. Just straight up scary. Let's listen to the rest of this, huh?
That is being executed to do everything from calibrating our sensors and training our operators on known objects to investigating what state-of-the-art technologies are happening across the world that we may not know about or not recognize. And so my team and I put all that in place. And that's all being executed and analyzed and done in a rational fashion. What happens to that is where I get frustrated, because where that goes beyond and does it fall on the deaf ears of these policymakers, I got better things to do. So I'm hoping that once this report gets delivered, there will be an unclassified version that goes to the public. That will help clear up at least some of this.
Sean, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate you speaking with us.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Okay, so this interview obviously triggered a whole bunch of believers to start making death threats, getting super angry, and their village idiot Jeremy Corbell is to their rescue. Before we get to that, though, I want to say thank you to Stone Dave, who says, Lou, light beings told me the world is going to end, so indica or sativa? I'd probably go indica, man, just because I'd want to fall asleep. I don't want to be around when the world ends. I want to be sleeping when it ends, whether that's naturally just me or the world as a whole. I want to be sleeping. So, yeah, give me the indica. And I'm not an indica guy. I really hate indica because it puts me to sleep. So, yeah, I appreciate that. That's a great question. Great question. And there's your little meme. Man, holy cow. One day, you guys, I think is the best meme. It pops up when I don't want to give the dollar amount, but it's up there, but it's a great meme. It's one of my favorite memes. But yeah, we'll get there one day. The $20 one's a good one too. I think people have seen that the Friday. Damn. Yeah, that one's good. Let's see here. I'm not there. This isn't happening. Did you speak to Rocky yet? No, I have not. That must have been a good feeling. That must have been good to feel validated. Also, your thoughts on Chris Lato and his breakdown. We're going to get there. We're going to get to both of these things. I promise you. We're going to get to them basically right now. Well, in a second. First thing I want to cover is the reaction to Kirkpatrick saying these things. I believe this is it. And this is sourced. Again, the Skyfire News is doing a great job of clipping these moments and making them digestible, shareable. But yeah, this is a moment from the Weaponized podcast. And I've also got a link to Skyfire News in the description below. So check that out. I want to say fair use. The videos we are sharing, we are educating the public on. And this is covered under fair use and allowable by the law. I'm pretty sure I almost said the whole fair use thing. Oh, we got another donation. Oh, no, wait. Yeah. Did you speak to Rocky? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Again, thank you for the donations, guys. I truly appreciate it. All right, let's listen to this one.
Total fucking horseshit. And Kirkpatrick is a piece of dog shit.
Oh my God, somebody is pissed that their cottage industry is getting exposed. Oh man. Oh, I don't think I've ever seen Jeremy Corbell get this pissed, this weaponized, man. He's usually calm, man. You know, like, come on, man. Oh, you get like, oh, poor Jeremy Corbell.
Total fucking horseshit.
Love it.
And Kirkpatrick is a piece of dog shit.
Oh my God. I would love to get both of them in a room and just sit down, debate, if that's what you want to call it. I just want to see Kirkpatrick eat him for breakfast. A piece of dog shit. This is what he's saying to his millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers and all of these people that follow George. I mean, between the two of them, millions of followers. And they have ignited, they've given people the excuse to get angry now. This is fucking horseshit, and Kirkpatrick is a piece of dog shit. I get pissed on this show, but it usually just ends with, he's a fucking liar or just a piece of shit. Yeah. I guess I have called people pieces of shit, especially when they're grifting. But this is hilarious. This is hilarious.
He's a suit.
He stuck a shiv right in the ribs of his own organization.
It was disgusting. But also, he's a liar. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is a liar. So let's get...
Doubles down, says it twice. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is a liar. A liar. Again, if he's lying about Dave Grush, release the emails between him and Dave Grush from Dave Grush's end. And they can do that right now. Right now, Jeremy Corbell. Do it. I mean, clearly, Dave Grush is one of your leakers and one of the guy who's leaking you all of this shitty footage. You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of dog shit. How about that, Jeremy Corbell? You're a piece of dog shit, buddy. All of your grifting and all of your bullshit and all your fucking lies and all your fucking fake footage and all your inferring and all your, expertise and all of the money you fucking make off of this shit and your $100,000 watches and your fucking, penthouse in Ohio, wherever the fuck you live. Like, you're a dick. You're a lying little grifting dick. God, yeah, it feels good. Feels good. And you, sir, are a liar. A liar. Lies. Everything that you have put out has been debunked. Every single high noon weaponized podcast bullshit. Talk about sticking a shiv in their own organization. You guys have been stabbing the shit out of ufology and sucking the wounds, all the marrow out of the bones that you can for the last 40 fucking years. The moxie on you guys. And you blind fanatics, Danny Silva, shame on you for backing this guy. And all those people wishing this dick a happy birthday. Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy. Like, for real. Like, he's a fucking snake oil salesman. He's a prophet of profit. The moxie, the balls that you have to say something like this. It's out of character. I'll be honest with you. Like that, these last 3 public appearances by Kirkpatrick have sent these guys in a full-blown panic because for the first time in their fucking adult lives, their bread and butter industry is about to get exposed. And they're freaking out. I'm never going to get on the Joe Rogan podcast ever again. Oh my God. No one's ever going to buy my shit fucking documentaries. Ah! I can't wait to see the next book cover for Douchebags at the Pentagon. When's that one coming out? Okay. Let's just the rest of this. I can't even get through the whole color.
Get into the lies so I can really nail this home that he's a liar. And we can get into that more later. But that is
I'm really going to nail as to why he's a liar, but we're going to get into that later. Liar! Later, bro. Trust me. We're not going to show you a fucking thing. We're not going to show you any evidence as to why or when he's lied. We're just going to say it. And it's going to be true, especially to the people that love us and champion this bullshit. Joe Bergia, you writing your notes? You got all the talking points that you're going to put in your fucking little blog that nobody fucking goes to wearing the same t-shirt you wear every single day? Fucking... Oh my God, these guys are fucking hilarious. Like, this is fucking comedy gold, man. Lou needs to snort some nose candy. Really? Yeah. Nah, Nah. All right, here we go.
Conscionable. He's a liar. In the Scientific American, which was neither scientific nor American, was he made this
What?
statement that is
In his op-ed he wrote, the Scientific American, which is not scientific nor American. It is literally both of those things. It is a publication written and published and edited in the United States. It's as American company as you can get. As American as Oscar Mayer, as American as weaponized. It's American. So fucking funny, this guy. Not scientific, which was not scientific nor American, says Jeremy Corbell. Lord Corbell.
was neither scientific nor American, was he made this statement that is disingenuous and it is a lie. You omit information, that's still a lie. So that's what he's done. So this is a lie. His statement is a lie. So we are going to retaliate. I don't know if I was forceful enough, George, but that's how I feel.
That's pretty good.
Oh, good for you, buddy. You get to call somebody a liar. I love it. Because now you dickheads know what we feel like. Looking at your work every single day and calling you out on your bullshit. All Kirkpatrick is doing is taking a fucking page out of the Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp playbook. Put out all of these things and then don't answer any questions from the people who have legitimate questions from you. Doesn't feel good, does it? You don't like it, do you? Maybe do a public correction on 29 Palms or your Element 115 or your werewolves smoking in trench coats. Dipshits. You guys are dipshits. Yep. Thank you, Complizier. 222, I appreciate it. Laughing his ass off. All right. So, of course, George Knapp is like, good for you, buddy. Oh, man, you nailed it, homeboy. All right. Total fucking horse shit. Okay, this is the George Knapp one. So this is what George Knapp has to say. Or no, this is about Wikipedia. Sorry. There was another. Oh, yeah, this is an interesting clip. And this is, again, this is just evidence that this conversation grabs hold of some really smart people. And Jeremy Corbell has really wrapped his little fucking tentacles around some really wonderful artists and intelligent people. And Dave Foley's one of them. Comedy idol, performed in the San Francisco Sketch Festival, as did I, like this year. It sucks. It sucks that this guy is totally hook, line, and sinker with Corbell, but I think eventually it's gonna be unavoidable. But let's listen to this back and forth. This is Jeremy Corbell still pissed off about Kirkpatrick.
The new head of Arrow is a cool guy. I hear he's
Have
a
they
great...
named it? Have they named
Yeah,
him
yeah,
head of
yeah.
Arrow?
He's
Oh, I
an
didn't
interim.
know.
He's an interim, but I hear he's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
Like in that he knows there's a problem and he's not going to play the Sean Kirkpatrick bullshit of lying to the American public.
What's
Yeah.
the name? Did I miss something?
Yeah,
Was
bad.
it-
I'm bad with names.
It was based on
bad
somebody who
with
was under
names.
Kirkpatrick is taken over an interim.
I don't know if
right,
he
we'll
was
find
under
out.
Kirkpatrick, but I do know that the new interim director of Arrow is said to be a straightforward person, not a political guy that's like Kirkpatrick, totally fucking lying to the American public.
Yeah.
So, lying to the American public. The new head of Arrow is a cool guy. I hear he's
Have
a
they
great...
named it? Have they named
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you just put, he's a liar. He's a liar. The new guy, he's kind of cool. Where is this part that George? I thought I had. Is this the clip? No, this is the one that he released last night. This is like his promo for the show last night.
This is not the final episode of Weaponized.
Oh, it's not?
Sean Kirkpatrick spending a whole year investigating
they're
this
extending
topic
this shit.
and not finding any evidence. We know that Arrow wasn't really up and running for that first year.
Some of these witnesses, he put them at risk. Dr. Kirkpatrick is lying to the American public. There are FOIA-able back and forths between Kirkpatrick and David Grush that will become public.
When? When are they gonna become public, Jeremy Corbell? We're fucking sitting here waiting with our thumbs up our asses on you and Dave Grush to release these emails, these smoking gun emails that Dr. Kirkpatrick ignored. David Grush.
The agenda is to shape the emerging UAP narrative.
For who? For you? Is that why you're so pissed? Because you don't get to shape the UAP narrative anymore? That the DOD seems to finally be getting control of this narrative? Because it's riddled with conspiracy theory, and they used to be able to ignore it, but now they can't anymore because they've got policymakers and lawmakers and party leaders walking into offices demanding UFO truth and access to the reverse engineered programs that do not exist. Yeah, I bet that's why you're calling him a fucking liar and a piece of shit. Because he is the not a thorn, a knife in your ribs, in the ribs of George Knapp. That's what he is. That's what he is. And God, I hope he twists it and or just, pulls it and lets all that bullshit come out, bleed out through the wound, and show people who you really are. You're lucky this guy's not calling you by name. I wish he was, man. I hope he does. I hope he does, because that'll just be a good day. Okay, so let's get into, speaking of people losing it, this is Chris Lato, and if you're not familiar with Chris Lato, good. Don't get yourself familiar with Chris Lato, but just a quick recap. Chris and I used to be pretty decent friends. We used to talk on the regular quite a bit. I held him in a really high regard because he's a former Navy fighter pilot. He's one of these guys. He's one of these Top Guns. When he first came onto the scene, he was doing an analysis of the gimbal, and he was really genuinely trying to, with good effort and good math and his expertise and his vantage point and his viewpoint and sort of from his perspective, trying to do the math on these videos and coming to the determination that, hey, maybe there is something kind of weird happening here. But then when he had a conversation with Mick West, he ended up agreeing with Mick West on all of the things that Mick West said and conceded, you're probably right. You're probably right. My math is wrong here. And here's why. And it was amicable and it was a great discussion. And to me, I felt like that was the future of where this conversation should start going. Like somebody makes claims or somebody tries to do math on something, and then the two opposing viewpoints or the two counter arguments to this question or problem come into a space and discuss this problem together and try and work it out in an intellectual way. And Chris was really doing that quite nicely at first. And then around a year into it, he started doing this UAP coin right around the time. Actually, he launched his UAP coin cryptocurrency the same day that the NFT market crashed. It was literally the same day or the same weekend in which this happened. So it was like the worst time to launch a brand new alien-based cryptocurrency with art, the NFTs that were made by AI. And to be honest with you, the NFTs weren't that impressive. If I'm being honest, that was like the one thing I was like, oh, it's kind of lame. But knowing Chris the way that I did, I thought, it was just another one of these good-hearted efforts. And I helped him with it. But I also reminded people quite a few times, hey, before you invest your money into anything, make sure you seek the advice of financial professionals and your financial advisors before you take any advice, especially from me, on what to invest in, because I was really confused about how NFTs work and cryptocurrency, and the way Chris was explaining. I was just like, dude, I don't get it. Just tell me what to do. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, so now Chris is in an absolute tailspin. He's been showing videos of flashlights recorded on film, putting it on his channel, and declaring that this is a real UFO. This is real footage. It's authentic. He thought the Nazca mummies were real, and he thought this was disclosure happening in real time, and he was freaking out on his channel. He's made death threats to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and the people at NASA and lawmakers. He has gone full-blown conspiracy theorist, and now he thinks he is channeling the secrets to humanity. I think mushrooms run rampant through his bloodstream right now. He is just high on mushrooms 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he thinks that he can access another paradigm or another level or some fucking crazy shit. But don't take my word for it. I'm not just talking out of my ass. Let's listen to him, shall we?
Okay, welcome everyone to the greatest video that I think will ever be made, at least on this planet.
He's serious. Like, he really thinks this video is the greatest video that humanity will ever produce, because he's about to share his secrets with you.
That we know about. And yeah, that's not even exaggeration. I can't believe it, everyone. So I will prove to you by the end of this video that we, collectively, we have found the unified theory. So that is humanity, this earth, has found the unified theory, and it just came through me. Okay, we would have found it in a couple years when
he found it. He found the unified theory. Just came through Chris Otis over there in Spain or Portugal, wherever the fuck he lives. Yeah, you heard that right. Like,
unified theory, and it just came through me. Okay, we would have found it in a couple years when AI wasn't limited by our human moronism, right? Bias.
AI would have figured it out, but don't worry, I got you. Chris Otis has got you. He's got the unified theory for humanity. This is the greatest video ever made.
But I'll explain why we had the biases, okay? It's not our fault, okay? It isn't. It's just how the universe is actually shaped. So what I'll do is go through this video as best I can to explain it. Okay, I've already released I've released everything. Okay, so you could go through and actually derive what I'm going to explain if you just use my basic concepts, and we will. Okay, so I'll just explain the basic theory right at the beginning.
Okay.
It goes into some detail. Okay, so we'll ask questions as we go along. The idea is you understand it by the end. Okay.
Dude, this sounds just like his crypto pitch. Don't worry, you'll get this by the end. And then you get to the end and you're like, what the fuck just happened? And why do I have a timeshare? Like, what just happened?
And what's going to happen, okay, is this video will prove the theory.
Look at him.
He's so insane.
He's
okay?
not
by
joking.
Making this video.
By making this video, and this is the best part, because now he's making predictions. So if this doesn't happen, now what? Now what, Chris Lato? You gonna correct? You gonna course correct? I have a feeling the answer is no. But let's listen to what Chris has to say. Let's listen to his prediction.
What I can predict is that there will be an eclipse. There will be an eclipse today, this week.
This week,
after
today.
I snap my fingers.
Today, this week, after I snap my fingers.
So like in Thanos, like the movie Thanos.
Thanos is not a movie. Thanos is a character in the movie.
I'm going to snap my fingers and you guys are going to snap with me, whoever is here, because it will matter. And if you watch this later, snap with us too at the end of the video, because
Okay.
there's some time.
You ready?
Okay, there's a speed of thought. Okay,
You ready
figure
out
it
there?
out by the end.
You ready to snap the solar eclipse into existence? Ah, the clip cut off. Well, let's just snap, just in case. Why not? You know? What happened to Chris Lato, man? Again, this just goes to show you how really intelligent people can go off a fucking deep end with this. But the thing is that he doesn't care how deep he's in. He's making a shit ton of money. A shit ton of money off of YouTube, Patreon, and I mean, I thought my channel was growing fast. Once he started covering the UFO topic, his channel exploded. He's got 103,000 subs. And I mean, I think he started this maybe 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, if that. And he's using his resume as this bona fide to say anything he wants. Anything he wants. He believed Ashton Forbes. He believes fucking this maniac. What's this guy? Stephen Bassett. And I had Stephen Bassett on my show a couple times, and I would fight and argue with him even at my most ardent beliefs. This guy is nuts. Not nuts enough for Chris Lato. No, Chris Lato fucking get all up in that. Dude, he is a grade A grifter. Grade A. I mean, like, and at this point, I genuinely believe at this point he might be playing a character. Like, he might be playing a character at this point. Like, he's figured out how the algorithm works. He knows what gets videos seen and clicked and shared. He knows what he has to say to get those people to donate to his channel and his stupid tokens. He's a maniac. He's completely lost the plot. Or he's playing a WWE character right now, just for UFOs. Like, it is. It's so weird. It's one of the weirdest things that has happened in ufology is to see this guy's turn. His turn from rationality into thinking when he snaps his fingers, an eclipse is going to happen. Okay, so eclipse hasn't happened today. And where is this eclipse going to happen? He does realize that when an eclipse happens, not the whole world sees it, right? He gets that, right? And is it an eclipse at night? Eclipse during the day? Where? What time? And did my snap count after that? He really thinks he's figured out the unifying theory, or he's playing a character that he thinks that he's figured out the unifying theory. And maybe these things are blending together at this point, the character and the real Chris. I cannot imagine what his loved ones are saying about this. They've got to be like, what the fuck are you doing, Dad? Like, what are you doing? So, yeah, that's Chris Lato. Okay, so this is George Knapp getting upset. Which is really funny. This is George Knapp getting upset about the Wikipedia controversy. I love when these guys get riled up. I love it. For the first time in a long time, these guys are finally getting riled up, and it's because people are questioning them to the nth degree.
Changing anything on Wikipedia, you're not allowed to do this anymore. And they gave her some bogus reasons why. And then, so I wasn't really paying attention to it, really, until this guy, Rob Heatherly, on X, Twitter, starts posting research that he had done.
And we talked about Rob Heatherly on this channel and our experience with Rob Heatherly and the squalor that Rob Heatherly lives in, and the chances that Rob Heatherly is probably not the investigator he's posing to be. Oh, we got some great Cosmic Judas clips, by the way, today, guys. Holy shit.
And from changing against the existence of this group, calling themselves the guerrilla skeptics of Wikipedia. I mean, I imagine they all have little get-togethers where they wear...
If somebody could tell me, was it actually proven that this group who's editing this is calling themselves the Guerrilla Skeptics, or is that a name that was given to them by Propaganda Ford and Rob Heatherly? If I had to take a guess, I think that was a name that they made up.
Star Wars uniforms and fight with plastic lightsabers or something, but they're the Guerrilla Skeptics of Wikipedia.
Guerrilla Skeptics reminds George Knapp of nerds fighting with plastic lightsabers. He's trying to make a joke, but man, that's an A to F joke right there. That one did not land. Take it from a professional joke writer. That joke sucked. And you're a piece of dog shit, George Knapp. I mean, it's funny when I say it. It's fucking hilarious. You're a piece of dog shit, George Knapp.
More than 100 of these debunkers who have seized control of the pages that deal with UFOs and people prominent in this topic. Lue Elizondo, you, me, Ross Coulthard, many others. None of the people who are...
All the grifters. All the guys who've been making shit up on Wikipedia and making up degrees like quantum... What did Jeremy Corbell graduate with? Quantum physics, I think. And then he did quantum jujitsu. He just made up his major, Jeremy Corbell.
Might be interested in the content of those pages in correcting absolute falsehoods have the ability, because these folks, the guerrilla skeptics, absolutely control that content and won't allow anyone else to have input. And it seems ridiculous. It seems ridiculous that Wikipedia would allow this to happen, but they have. Rob Heatherly on X will show his contact info. If you want to know how this thing was uncovered and how deep it runs, you got to follow Rob.
And this is why oh my God, man. It is so easy to see how they support each other. And I used to be part of this, man, where I was on a conversation with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, and we were talking back and forth, and they were like literally grilling me and testing me to see if I'm going to be Danny Silva or Jor Moja or any one of these dickheads like Rob Heatherly and just be like, oh my God, you're George Knapp and you're Jeremy Corbell. Oh my God, I'll do anything, say anything for you guys. And when you get an endorsement, a stamp of approval like this now from George Knapp, it is a guaranteed stamp of you cannot trust the piece of dog shit that he's stamping his approval on. And I can say without a doubt, Rob Heatherly is a piece of dog shit. That's for real. And again, an admitted oath keeper, Rob Heatherly. That's who George Knapp just stamped his fucking approval on, an oath keeper, because he's fighting the guerrilla skeptics with their plastic lightsabers. I mean, you cannot write this we are going to write this comedy. We are in the process of writing this comedy. Holy shit, man.
Because he's done some really great work, and there's some other folks on X who've contributed to it. Hal Puthoff, Dr. Hal Puthoff, is a physicist. He's worked for CIA. He worked as part of the OSAP.
OSAP?
He was a consultant.
Again, all of these guys go back to OSAP. Lue Elizondo, George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell. Rob Heatherly has nothing to do with OSAP, but he's got to do with loving Lue Elizondo and licking his boots at every chance he can.
Consultant to ATIP. He's been around the UFO topic for 45, 50 years. He's a smart guy, a brilliant man, and someday might win the Nobel Prize for zero-point energy, but he's a great guy and a great scientist, and he thinks on a broad scale. He couldn't make even a tiny...
You're right, Lord Ludacris. Hal Puthoff is an engineer. He's not even a fucking physicist, man. And when you ask people like Eric Davis, they're like, no disrespect to Hal Puthoff or not Eric Weinstein, no disrespect to Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis, but they're not even in the top 200 within their own fields. Leading minds within their own fields. They wouldn't even crack the top 200, those two guys. And George is giving him the Nobel Peace Prize? Get a grip, you piece of shit. That's going to be a thing now, I think. Yeah. It's so funny. Okay.
Little correction to some slanted word that was on his own page, he was rejected. Lue Elizondo wanted to fix at least tiny little things, like they had him being born in Florida. He wasn't. He was born in a different state. Rejected. He can't fix even that. So there's a lot of scrutiny being given to this group. The head of the guerrilla skeptics is, you think, some big highfalutin scientist, somebody with multiple degrees who's trained in all of science.
Why would you think that? Why would you think that? Why would a scientist who's busy doing scientific shit spend hours of his day or her day editing your Wikipedia profile, George Knapp? Like, get a grip, you piece of shit. It's so funny.
True skeptic. It's a lady who worked as a photographer for 30 years for a J.C. Penney's. And it's not like she's the ultimate authority, but they've set themselves up as that. When I said at the beginning of this program that this battle is now unfolding on multiple platforms, even Wikipedia, can you imagine the shitstorm that would break out if ufologists, pro-UFO types, seized control of Wikipedia and would not allow...
It's worse. You assholes have seized control of Congress. You've seized control of Congress. It's worse. And that's why we're pissed off. Because a handful of fucking UFO nuts have convinced members of Congress in the intelligence community that their OSAP fucking investigation was real. The dino beavers and the werewolves smoking in trench coats is real, man. And he's getting angry about guerrilla skeptics getting together and editing his Wikipedia when you dickheads have taken over Congress, you pieces of shit. I love it. I love it.
Anybody to enter anything that wasn't acceptable to them, it would be outrageous. So the fact that this has happened at all, the fact that there is nothing anyone can do about it is troubling. And true skepticism would be, tell me.
What's more troubling? Nobody can do anything about a bunch of guerrilla skeptics correcting the profiles of George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, Lue Elizondo, and every other UFO nut on Wikipedia. Or, more troubling, that a bunch of UFO nutballs and liars and grifters and bullshitters have taken over Congress and now have written laws and put things in place, legislatively speaking. And there's no one to stop you, dickheads. Welcome to our world, George Knapp. Now imagine how frustrated we are. This is just fucking Wikipedia, buddy. Get a grip.
Prove it to me.
You piece of shit.
Let's see both sides. If you got some other evidence or argument, let's see it. They don't allow that.
Oh, that's weird. That's so weird. Because pretty sure that everyone and their mother sent you the corrections for 29 Palms and the facts for 29 Palms, and both of you pieces of shit ignored it. You just ignored it. Investigated 29 Palms with, I believe it was 6 people. 6 investigators, and not one of them reported the largest military exercise in the Western continental United States on the very same night. None of these pieces of shit reported that. None of my videos ever get monetized because I curse now so much. So if you love this show, please check out our Patreon. It goes a very long way. Also, I noticed that we got a pretty decent crowd today. So if you haven't subscribed yet, that's a great way to support the show too. Smash the like and ring the bell. Let's get back to these pieces of shit, shall we?
It's not allowed.
Also, I see here, Merrick VR, Merrick VR, or so MVONREN.
And from changing anything on Wikipedia.
Okay. So there's that. So that's the meltdown of George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell. And then then there was this. We played the video of this interview between Burchett and Jay from Project Unity, and they had inferred that Congressman Burchett was getting bad information from people who didn't know they were being lied to. After the interview, they both inferred during the interview who they knew who it was. They were like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, okay, moving along. And then after the interview was over and posted, Jay from Project Unity says, I'll save you some guesswork. It's Corbell, accept it or don't. Saying that Corbell is the guy that's feeding information to Congressman and lawmaker Tim Burchett, and that he's getting bad information thinking it's real. So let's listen to this because this is interesting. This is Corbell's rebuttal to that.
I feel like there may have already been attempts to get you to traffic in disinformation.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And the trick is there's some of them that are doing it that are,
thank you, Drummer 3354 for subscribing.
Don't know they're doing it. They're the most effective ones. They've been given false information and they've got a huge following and they're a fraud.
Who are you talking about?
I'm not going to say.
I think you and I both know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
You
what
feel
was
like-
the clip? Corbell, let's see, let me go to his account here. I'm pretty sure he had been a rebuttal on that. Rebuttal from Corbell. And look, I mean, they're putting Dr. Kirkpatrick in the mask of Bane. Like, oh man, pieces of shit. Talk about pieces of shit. Man, where's this clip, bro? Where he... 24th. Let me see. It was a reply he sent to something. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, yeah, everybody. Oh, happy birthday, Joe. You're the best, man. You're the best. Thanks for all that shitty information. Dude, you rule. Thank you so much. You're the man. Lord Ludacris, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Says, love this side of Lue. Keep calling out the BS. Will do. Thank you so much. Got a $7.99 donation from Sandra McDonald. Thank you, Sandra. You're a beauty. Love your dog. Go Lue from Australia. Thank you so damn much. I appreciate the support, you guys. Damn. Love y'all. Skyfire News has the clip. All right. Skyfire News has the clip to save the day. Where the hell is it? Ah, here it is.
So here we go,
Thank
man.
you, Skyfire News. Again, I got the link. If you guys want to follow them down below, check them out. They clip these things really well.
So here we go, man. Let's have the real fight here for information and for truth on this. You know, I've seen some of this gossip going around. Like the funny one to me was our buddy Representative Burchett, right? He said on something that, you know, some people get disinformation, but they're not even aware of that. And some idiot's like, oh yeah, no, that's Jeremy Corbell.
And
okay,
some
cool,
idiot. And so he's talking about Jay from Project Unity. Jeremy Corbell just called you an idiot, man. At least you're not a piece of shit.
And so I'm like texting with Burchett and we're laughing together. We're laughing because, you know, we have talked about this a bunch, like who's getting false information and doesn't know it. I mean, look, this is part of the game. I don't need to defend myself. I'll let Burchett say something if he wants to, but it's not you and me getting that stuff. And so it's just so funny to see people freaking out. But, you know, look, a lot of people have come kind of intellectually. They've come to, so here we go, man.
Oh, man, dude, Jeremy Corbell, he is one of the best bullshitters of all time. He really, really is, man. The fact that he's made it this far is flabbergasting. Okay, so last night, there was a really great conversation on Steve Campion's channel between Jeremy McGowan and Steve Campion. This interview was hyped up quite a bit. In not like a high noon kind of way, but like, hey, you're gonna want to watch this episode. There's somebody going to be on who used to be close with Lue Elizondo, used to be part of his little crew, and was a trusted confidant, and at one point was even being considered to be put in a documentary and being used as sort of this figure of authority based off of his background. And he realized in the middle of all this, oh shit, I think I'm being used by Lue Elizondo and it doesn't feel good. And when I ask him these questions privately, the answers I'm getting are really bad. And yeah, I think I'm just going to back away from this and not touch it with a 10-foot pole. And he was as respectful as you could possibly be. And I'll be honest, I was sitting there listening to the interview and I'm like, Jesus, dude, this is like almost word for word exactly what happened to me. Almost word for word. Okay. Where they bring you in, you know, like Sean Cahill would tell me things like, hey man, would you be interested in doing television and speaking on this topic? And I was like, yeah, whatever you guys need me to do, just let me know. You know, like I would say things like, just consider me a tool in your tool belt, because I thought I was, again, like I was organizing, I was campaigning and grassroots efforting on their behalf without them ever asking me to do so. I was genuinely coming in with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of goodwill to help. And they saw that and they were trying to take advantage of it as much as they could whenever they could by planting these little things, these little seeds in your head that most of the time don't sprout to shit because they're telling everybody that. And then they're seeing what they do with the information and they're sitting back and they're going, okay, we could trust him, we could trust her, we could trust him. Can't trust this guy, or this guy. And so those opportunities never end up coming. But like he was telling me things like, yeah, do you think you'd be comfortable on CNN? Cahill was telling me this. And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I do it on my show every day. You know, like I wouldn't have a problem doing it on CNN. Yeah, if that's how you guys think I'm the most valuable, then I'll do it. You know, but I'm like, I'm not asking to do that. Like, I don't need that in my life. And I made that clear. I'm like, you know, like, just FYI, like, you know, I don't need that. It's very nice. I would love it. It'd be cool. But it's like, it's not what, you know, again, like, if that's where you think my time is most valuable and to help this initiative, then I'll do it. And that was the last I heard of it. You know, but this idea of like, I would get texts because these guys would all communicate through Signal, which is an encrypted communication app. They don't trust anything but, you know, like PC. They don't trust anything Apple. And they will only communicate through encrypted apps. And so, you know, like when I finally got invited to the Signal group chat, you know, I was welcomed from Lue Elizondo with, you know, welcome to the team. And I think I responded something along the lines of, really? I'm a team? Cool. Awesome. Like, not really getting what they were asking me. You know, I just thought they were just being nice. But in retrospect, you think about this stuff and it's just like, it's crazy. Okay, so this guy is a former Canadian military personnel, and he was doing a podcast and got hooked up with Lue Elizondo, and they became friends and would communicate behind the scenes quite a bit. And there's some interesting stories that Rocky tells about, you know, forms. This one story here in particular, I think is really important because it shows how Lue Elizondo will take the credibility of a former service member like this and butter him up with, hey, I'm a service member too. This is our common ground. Hey, this form that's not declassified. Do you mind holding this up in a documentary and showing it in a documentary as proof of the Canadian government coming out with alien evidence, you know, evidence of the existence of aliens? Basically what this, you know, this paper is inferring. It does not say that, but that's what he wanted this guy to do. And he was like, yeah, no. And also I have to check with my superiors. Like, I have to run this by my military first before I appear on another program or movie with a foreign military asset. So he has to, just like the United States, if they're communicating with a Canadian military asset, they have to report who they're reporting or communicating with. Because if that guy is a spy, they need to know that, and vice versa. So yeah, this is a very interesting part of the conversation. And Rocky talks about, he's going to name the form here, this form that he presented to Lue Elizondo. Lue had no idea what it was and didn't understand that this form, anybody could get it. Like, it's public information. It's not something that that's top secret, but he wanted it to be sold as this top secret thing. So anyway, let's listen to this because it's interesting.
I'll get into it. But
and by the way, I also have the link for this full conversation in the description below. So if you want to listen to this whole conversation, I highly recommend checking it out. The stream last night was quite busy, and a lot of people were listening to what this guy had to say. And not only that, but Stephen Greenstreet popped into the conversation, into the live stream, and said, hey, I've talked to this guy behind the scenes, and everything that he says, he's got proof of, he's got video of, he's got recorded conversations of. So if he's saying it, it's because it's real. And Steve Cambion has heard parts of these recordings. Jeremy McGowan has heard parts of these recordings. Stephen Greenstreet has heard parts of these recordings. And these recordings were his evidence. Hey, this is who I am. This is my background. This is where I came from. And this is my story about Lue Elizondo. And here are the recordings to fucking prove it. Do you want to listen? And all three of them were like, yep. And every time that Rocky would tell this story, the one person that everybody would always tell him to go to was Jeremy McGowan. And it's like, shit, man, that sounds like McGowan's story. You should talk to McGowan. You should talk to McGowan. And between him and Cambion, they both talked to this guy and convinced him to come forward with this story. And this sounds like the only time he's ever going to go public. And that really sucks. I would love to talk to him. He did give me a really wonderful shout out in this conversation. And if I could find it, I'd like to play it, because I think, again, it just validates everything that I was going through and everything that I was saying when it was happening to our show. And the warnings, everything that I've said has come to pass. Everything. And his sort of what he saw happen to my show, and how he was like, yeah, not only have I've experienced that, and I know exactly what that guy's going through. So it was a really nice little sort of, again, just like, yeah, I'm not fucking crazy. Like, I know what I did was right, and I'm not a piece of shit, and I'm not a fucking grifter, and I don't take advantage of people, and I don't fucking lie to people. I got a look behind this fucking piece of shit UFO curtain, and I saw how this sausage was made, and all I did was tell you guys about it. And guess what? I was right. And now all of you guys are coming back in these streams because you know I was fucking right. And now you get it. Now you see it. Because 2 years ago, it was very difficult to sit back and look at this whole picture and go, what the fuck is going on here? Very difficult. Now, people have a very good perspective of what's happening right now. And it seems very obvious what's happening right now. And the Department of Defense is caught on. The Scientific American is caught on. I believe it was the New Yorker or New York Magazine has caught on. So mainstream media is catching up finally to this bullshit. But anyway, let's listen to what Rocky has to say, because I had to preface all of this. The last thing, I had to preface this interview with that, because when I first started watching this, I was like, man, this is gonna ruffle some feathers, and I don't know if I can trust this guy, because you can't see his face. It's really, really dark in the room. You know, he's telling these stories about Lue Elizondo, although doing it in the most respectful way possible. And a lot of the things that he said about Lue, like Lue never ordered me to dox somebody or pick on someone, or never asked me what the questions were going to be before we did an interview with him. That kind of stuff never and that's why I say he doesn't have to say these things. Like, that's milk fart and all of the people that back this guy with like a sycophant and like a cult member, they're not told to do these things. This is not an organized thing. They are taking it upon themselves to dox you. They are taking it upon themselves to harass you and find your grandma and find your children and comment on your kids and call your work and fucking show up at your house. Okay? Like, nobody has to tell these people to do that. Nobody. All you have to do is call somebody a piece of shit on your podcast, be very unspecific about it, but also fill it in with a lot of details that kind of basically tells you who he's talking about, and then boom, all of a sudden somebody's on that guy's doorstep or calling his job or harassing his mom or whatever the hell's going on. Like, it's not an organized group. It is just a bunch of fucking maniacs who take it upon themselves that, God damn it, I am not going to let these haters and pieces of shit hate and pick on Lue Elizondo. I'm going to defend Lue Elizondo because he can't do it himself, because he's a public figure. He's got to be honorable, even though behind the scenes, he's got multiple sock puppet accounts where he does very dishonorable behavior. So that's why I preface this with this. But after you hear Greenstreet and Corbell, or excuse me, McGowan and Steve Cambion talk about these recordings and his bona fides and his career. I know Cambion does his research. Like, that guy just doesn't put anybody on the show. So let's listen to this, because again, this is a pretty interesting part of the show here.
So what I said to him was, hey, I've got a contact with Mr. Elizondo. I could send him this and ask him if he knows what it means. And so he gave me permission, and I shared that document with Mr. Elizondo. And
so this was a document that had been officially released,
correct,
through an access to information request by the Canadian government. So it's not a classified document. It's not sharing state secrets. It was
right.
It was an official release that you had the ability to.
In other words, like a United States version of FOIA, but the Canadian version.
So, and to be totally clear, that particular version of that document had originally been classified, and obviously declassified through my friend's access to information request. Now, I don't actually know, to be clear, if that's why it was declassified. I don't think so. I think that it just wasn't anything all that substantial. But anyway, he got it. I sent it to Lue Elizondo, and sort of waited for a reply on that. Meanwhile, we found out what CL213 was, and CL213 just stands for Checklist 213. It's a series of contacts, emails, phone numbers, addresses of military offices that should be contacted when a UFO report meets a certain criteria, right? And that can be very basic.
So let me pause you right here for a second. We don't have this in the United States until Arrow was spun up. there was absolutely no way for a standardized data collection of pilot reports or military witness reports. And you're saying that the Canadian government had this in place years before we stood up Arrow?
Well, I don't know if what I think is that this had to do with NORAD, and so I think you guys definitely had this.
Because NORAD's joint Canadian and US.
Yeah, and so the number 213 may have been a Canadian version of the same document in the American side of NORAD. The ISRD, Intelligence Surveillance Reconnaissance Division of NORAD, has ISRD North up in Winnipeg near 1 Canadian Air Division, and then ISRD down at Peterson Air Force Base. And they all share those same documents, of course. And so I'm not an expert on that. I don't know exactly, what the American side called it, but there's no doubt they had the same document.
And you said you shared this with Lue. What was his take on when you shared the document with him?
Initially, he said he did not know what it was, but it seemed, and this is from memory what he said, but that he would look into it and get back to me.
Anything ever come out of that?
Not exactly out of that memo. I found it strange that he didn't know what it was, in a sense, because it turned out it was so basic that it was odd, because if you had run a top secret UFO program, the most basic reporting document should have been known to them.
He should have been familiar with that if he actually ran the Pentagon program.
I mean,
right?
if any
so did that jump out at you as like a red flag then?
Well, it just hit me kind of odd. It just any fat slob like me can get it. Then it would seem that someone running a top secret Pentagon UFO program would likely have access to the most basic documents, and many of these CL-213 documents are not classified. It's just a basic reporting procedure. That's all it is. So it was just a weird thing that he didn't know what it was.
So was this like one of your first interactions with Lue after you had done the podcast? You said, "Hey, I know," and I'm speaking for you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you basically said, "Hey, we had this podcast, we've been texting for a while. I've got this document I'd like to share with you." And was this kind of like the genesis of a longer, more involved conversation that you started to get into with Lue?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
So where did it go from there? After Lue said he was going to check in on this document, what happened next?
Well, there was lots of messages and stuff back and forth via text or whatever. Some had to do with research, some did not. But eventually I got a phone call or a text. I think it was a text message from Lue asking if I could take a phone call. And so, of course, I said yes. And then and this was July, I think, of 2021.
Okay.
So he called me up, and somewhere in that conversation, and I don't want to give an exact quote because I can't remember exactly what was said, but something in that conversation led me to believe that I was going to,
Listen to this. Listen to this.
Inferred that he needed to update my security clearances to bring me in on some program. Right.
Wait. This is very important. So let's make sure that we have to, unpack this.
So,
go ahead, Jeremy.
You're having a conversation with Lue via text message. We'll call it Signal for lack of better terminology. You're having a conversation via Signal with Lue Elizondo. You've never met him.
Right.
You've only done one interview with him, had a series of phone calls with him, gave him a declassified document that he didn't know about. And now Lue is asking you for personal information by saying the reason he's asking for the personal information is because he wants to upgrade your security clearance to be read in on a program.
That's the way I understood it. Yep.
Did he say what this program was?
Wow.
No, I never got a program name or anything like that, but I understood it to be 1 or 2 programs with NORAD.
That's wild. Like, that's wild. You know, so he takes this unclassified document, makes it a bigger deal than it is, and then turns around and is like, buddy, we got to upgrade your security clearance because you're coming with me. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. All right, sure. And then starts making some calls. Well, listen to what happens.
With NORAD, something to do with NORAD, something to do with Peterson Air Force Base, something in that area, 1 on the base, 1 off the base, or something.
So the guy that didn't know what a CL-213 was is going to read you into a program with NORAD, who is the originator of the CL-213.
Whether he was going to read me in or needed my clearances upgraded, I'm not for what purpose, I can only surmise. But when I finished that phone call, I was of the impression that I was basically applying for a job. It was more like a job interview, right?
What did he tell you were going to be doing, or did he tell you what you were going to be doing?
Not really. It was fairly vague. There was some program he was working with. Like I say, it was something to do with NORAD and very vague.
And were you still active duty at this time, or you?
No. I retired in 2016, late 2016.
Okay, so you retired in 2016. This is occurring in July-ish of 2021, and Lue is saying that he's going to read you into a NORAD program, never having met you, and you being a Canadian civilian.
Well, okay, so let's be clear. I don't want to put words into Lue's mouth either. Like,
okay,
he never said, Rocky, I'm going to read you in. That's not what he said.
Okay,
but it was that I needed my security clearances upgraded so that I could be brought in to some program or programs. Is what I took from that conversation. So
what was he asking for on a personal level?
Unreal. By the way, thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat, Wise Monkey. I appreciate it.
To upgrade, quote unquote, your security clearance.
He didn't actually ask me for anything really. To upgrade it, he just took personal information down. I sent him copies of ID cards, etc. Maybe I even sent him a personal record resume, my military record. I don't remember exactly, but I might have sent him something called an MPRR, military personal record resume, just to back up my service. So that I think I sent that to him, but I'm not 100%.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming that was kind of a long process. And did your security clearance ever get upgraded?
No, we never discussed that again, oddly enough. But in the meantime, I found it very odd because, I'm likely the last guy on earth that any intelligence agency would read into a program like that because, hey, I was into UFOs. Look, if you want to get into intelligence and you dreamt of becoming James Bond, they don't want to take you, right? And so a guy who's really into UFOs is not likely to be read into some top secret UFO program. But what I did was,
which is what Bob Lazar is, and a pimp.
Having friends all over the place, I phoned some people at NORAD that worked in the correct departments within NORAD, and I just dropped some names and said, look, and these are people that I've known for 30 years that happened to be at NORAD at that point working in intelligence. And I said, hey, look, this is what I think is happening, that I may be brought down there. I may be read into a program. Do you know these people? Do you know this man? And my good friend there said, he didn't know the name, but he would definitely look into this for me. He got back to me quickly, within a day or two, and said that no, they had never heard of this guy or anybody.
This guy being Lue,
right?
Okay.
And that it was just basically told me, hey, whatever you're getting mixed up with here, it has nothing to do with us. There's no programs like this, and that they had never heard of him. And
so let me backtrack just a minute. You reached out directly to people that you knew based on your military service for 25 years in the Canadian military. You reached out to folks that you knew at NORAD and asked them if they knew Lue Elizondo, who was saying that he was going to bring you in to a program. And the guys that you talked to at NORAD had no idea who Lue was.
Right. And like 100%.
That's probably
right. Yeah. I call my buddies at NORAD and we're like, hey, you guys ever heard of this Lue Elizondo? He's going to upgrade my security clearance, apparently. And they're like, no. No. We have no idea who the fuck that is. No clue. This is what they do to Rob Heatherly. This is what they do to any veteran. There's another guy out there. I think his name's Shannon Scott, if I'm not mistaken. He's another one of these veterans that just loves licking the boots of Lue. There's a few of them, but this is what he does behind the scenes. And this is what Gary, the producer of Disclosure Tonight, was talking about. The stuff that he says behind the scenes, the promises that he makes, the guarantees that he tells them are coming, and the appearances that they're going to get, and the adulation that they're going to get for appearing on documentaries or going on CNN. You're like, you're going to be huge, kid. Like he's like a fucking, like one of those 1920s, like, yeah, you're going to be a star, kid. We're going to put you on Broadway in the bright lights. See, they're going to love you, kid. Just do what you do. And that's what he does behind the scenes. You know, he puffs a cigar and then he fucking leaves and doesn't do any of the shit that he promises these guys. But it doesn't matter because these guys are now his attack dogs. Now, anytime he even remotely suggests something, they go into attack mode. And I know that the King Milkfart Harassment Archive was making some points that it's coordinated. I think what happens post the publication of docs or harassment or whatever is coordinated laughter and piling on. All of that is coordinated. I don't think there are elements of this, like Rob Heatherly, that are behind the scenes talking to Lue Elizondo and trying to figure out who Rather was, and trying to find anything on me to destroy my credibility and therefore my show. There are elements to it that are organized. And yes, Lue Elizondo goes around and likes some of these maniacs' tweets, but that's all he's got to do. They know that he likes it. That's their permission. That is as much coordination as it takes for them to go on absolute benders of harassment. So I would say you're right, but you're also kind of like, just think about who we're talking about here. Okay, a plumber that's employed by mommy. You know, a guy who's been divorced umpteen times and wears the same t-shirt every day. You know, Sawan, like that guy's made death threats, legitimate death threats to people. I would love to meet that guy face to face one day. Love it. Let's see how tough he is. It doesn't take much to get these guys going. It really doesn't. And that's what I kind of want you guys to understand, is that a lot of this is self-motivated. A lot of it. And then parts of it do get organized. Parts of it, they do come together. They definitely always come together when it hits. Then they laugh at you. They pick on you. They jump on you from all different angles. And then if you don't have them blocked, it feels like a barrage of fucking maniacs. It's really just 20 or 30 people. But I've blocked them all. And I'll be honest, my Twitter experience has been infinitely better. Infinitely better. So I recommend you guys do the same. So there. Somebody, it was King Milfire Harassment Archive. Thanks for the timestamp on when this conversation shifts to me here. So let's go ahead and pick that up from there. And then we're going to end the show, I think. But yeah, let's listen to this.
Through what I experienced, that your story rang true. I felt that there's a gentleman out there who I don't know, but his name is and I'm going to butcher his name probably, but it's Lue Jimenez.
Close enough.
Used to have a podcast. It's called Lue Reviews. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, I get a little emotional when I think about that gentleman, because when he was going through his stuff, holy shit, I felt such a connection there, because I knew exactly what he was feeling, and there was no one to mention this to, right? Like it was just this visceral feeling. And I actually took a video of him, slowed it down, and I put a whole bunch of battle music to it when he was ranting about his experiences, and I sent it to him. He probably thought I was some wackadoodle, and
I think I don't know if people have been asking me if I remember this. I don't remember it, but if he did send me something like that, I probably thought it was a troll. Like I probably thought he was trying to troll me, and I probably didn't understand it, because that sounds like a troll. You know, like slowing down that rant and then adding battle music to it. I mean, it sounds funny. And now in retrospect, I see where he's coming from it. And yeah, I'd love to find that, or see it. But yeah, I mean, this is again, like he says the visceralness of it, how much he related to what I was saying, and that he couldn't tell anybody. That was the most difficult part for him, is that there was nobody that he could express this to that could relate. And that's the issue I was running into when I was going through this. It was like, when I reached out for help from my family, especially, trying to encapsulate the last 3 years of my life and experiences working with these people and advocating for these people and trusting these people. It was very difficult to encapsulate that entire experience in a half-hour conversation over the phone to my brother or my mom or my stepdad or my dad or my sister. And when I did try to do it, it was so fast and so rapid and so hard to understand that it sounded like a crazy person talking, because I was saying all of these things and I was trying to get them to understand, but they had no clue. And it wasn't their fault. Like, it wasn't my fault either. Like, it's very difficult for people, normies, genuine normies that have nothing to do with this conversation, when you reach out to them and you say, hey, I'm kind of in trouble, or I'm having difficulty with this, and here's what's happening. That's when I realized, holy shit. Like, especially when my brother was like, dude, like, it's very difficult for me to understand everything that you're saying, because I just don't understand the context of all of this stuff. He's like, it's not that I don't believe you. He's like, I believe whatever happened, only because you sound so upset. Like, you sound so upset. You don't sound like yourself. And that's when I knew I had to quit the show. Right then and there. Because it wasn't making me happy. And I think I was struggling with letting it go. I worked my ass off. I worked my ass off to build that show to what it was. I worked my fucking ass off every single day to produce that show. And there's these stupid assholes who are like, well, he didn't pay his employees. I didn't have any fucking employees, and I was barely making enough money to support myself. If the company had grown to what that UFO podcast is today, or what Jeremy Corbell's got, yeah, I would have definitely paid my co-host, and we'd still all be together right now doing a show. It'd be a different show, but it'd be a show. Like, it was so difficult to deal with this. And a lot of people really don't understand unless they've been behind the curtain And these two guys have been. And Stephen Greenstreet has been. And John Greenwald has been. And then there's just people who are just too afraid to say anything, like Gary. Or Thomas Fessler. He's terrified to actually speak what happened. He will never do that. He doesn't have the balls to do that because he likes the super chats he gets every show. He likes the audience of 300 people every night when he does his show. He loves that. He's addicted to that shit. It can be very addictive.
Never responded, but that's well over a year ago. So to him, and there's a young couple from Canada named Josh and Artemis that had a little show, and they received a lot of harassment. And there was,
we have as well here, just to put that on the record.
Yeah,
people,
for sure.
People have threatened my wife, my children by name.
Right.
Like, congratulations, Sherlock. You looked me up on Facebook.
Yeah,
I've been doxxed and all this other stuff. And, when they go to that length or to that extreme, to me, it means that they have no arguments against the information that we're presenting. I want to take a moment to thank King Fart Harassment Archive, and also a big thank you to Drama Alert for kind and generous $49.99. Thank you both for helping us here.
Where's our $49.99 donation, Drama Alert? Jesus Christ. That's a great donation. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so again, you guys, the link for this whole discussion is in the notes below. So in the description below, you can find the link to Truth Seekers and this specific discussion. I highly recommend going back and listening to it. He had some very, again, at the end of it, he had some more kind words to say about me. I'm definitely going to have a private conversation with Rocky and do everything in my power to try and get him to come on my show. Just because I'd love to poke around at this story a little bit too. But I also understand like there's really not a ton of new questions that I could ask Rocky. He very eloquently, very succinctly laid out exactly what happened to him, and did it in a very respectful manner. And, all of his experiences that he describes with Lue Elizondo were my experiences with Lue Elizondo. Like in person, through text messages, he's never once encouraged me to do something that would threaten somebody or dox somebody, harass somebody, or anything like that. Those stories I related to tremendously. And he was always very kind to me, very generous with his time. I spoke to his wife a whole bunch. I mean, again, like I had his dad on my show, I thought we were friends, but clearly we were not. And that tension was building way before we asked that question. That was coming, and that's proof in the pudding in that recording of Cahill talking shit about my show on Fesslers before their show started. But yeah, I mean, it's a wild time, man. It really, really is. It really is. But so that's basically everything I wanted to talk about today. And that's basically it, you guys. That's the show. Thank you all so damn much for being here. Let me do this thing that I do. Yeah, you guys, I cannot appreciate all of you enough. Somebody just said here, the numbers are going up, and they are. The numbers are slowly going back up. We lose subscribers like crazy, but we also gain the subscribers that actually want to be here. So it's all good, man. Like none of that, again, like I'm not here for that, but it does help. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting that we're sort of, we've been validated. We were right. Ricardo Micardo, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. We've been validated on so many different things. And actually, you know what I should do is I should get Josh and Artemis on the show and have them tell their story of the Lue Elizondo thing and a couple other stories that I've spoken to them about behind the scenes. It would be a very interesting conversation, and it'd be not as great as having Rocky on, but I think it'd be pretty damn close to hear their experience and what they've gone through. And I haven't talked to them in a while, but Artie used to help produce the show, and she was great to have around. Anyway, Rather, we got to get Rather back on this show. Bobby Broadway, don't be sorry, man. You're here. We made it. We made it, Bobby Broadway. That's a great name, by the way, Bobby Broadway. I really do like that name. You guys, I love you all. Please don't forget to smack that like, share, and subscribe button. Ring the bell. That way you are notified anytime we go live. And we do go live quite often. If you want to support the show outside of the like, share, subscribe, and ringing the bell, our Patreon link is in the description below. Again, I've expressed how much that helps me produce and keep doing this show as much as I do it. All of the super chats help with that as well. So I love all of the super chats that you guys send, everything you guys are doing to support this show. Again, no special access, no paywalls. Everybody gets the same show. If you donate to the show, it's because you fucking really love it. And it's been that way since day one. And we're never, ever, ever changing that. We're never going to have a fucking paywall here. Ever, ever. So, take that to the bank, Matt Ford! You piece of shit! Peace out, y'all. Thank you, Ardent Paranormal, King Milkfart Harassment Archives, Puxley, Rat Eyes, Pinzer, Bobby Broadway, Michael Huntington, Compliziert, HTID Tricky, Steve Long, Wise Monkey. I think I said Puxley, but Puxley again. Thank you so much for the super chats, the donations, the love. Pat Calabria, good night. Thank you for being here. Simon Fly, the love is strong. Thank you, my man, for being here. I love it. I love all of y'all. Deluxe Edition, thank you for being here. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Try not to get too wet out there. Smith, thank you for being here. It's been raining like crazy out here in California. So clearly that means it's raining everywhere else. So be safe out there, you guys. I love y'all. Peace. East Coast Tina, thank you for being here, my love. I love you to death. I also miss UFO Jane, but I still got you. So thanks for being here, baby. Thank you, Beverly Holmes. You rule. Oh, and Rick Doty is a piece of shit. And that guy, that other guy that was in that conversation last night that called Beverly Holmes a bitch, yeah, you're a piece of shit too, buddy. I love you all.